here. Tonight we are going to bake up our saffron buns, which are lucicatas, which will be for Santa Lucia tomorrow. So they are yellow base dough made from saffron, slightly sweetened, but they are essentially the quintessential treat of Santa Lucia, because of their yellow color of them. And Santa Lucia is all about like the winter. The days are getting longer. It's about to get warm again there. So tomorrow, Santa Lucia on the 13th. So what we're going to do is we are going to roll out our dough, and then we're going to prep up some cringla dough to bake up tomorrow as well. So I'm going to start kind of dividing this up. We're going to make the traditional ones, and then we will roll out. I might do a couple of fun ones like a Yule goat or whatnot. Let's see. So it's a slightly sweetened dough. I when I the way I make mine, I do add a bit more sugar in it than the traditional one, which is very, very light and sweet. But I like them to be more of like a sweet bread. So I add just a little bit more sugar in it. But for the basings, this is their traditional one, which makes kind of like an S there. It's actually supposed to be the pig, the Yolbach, which is the kind of like the Swedish pig on there. I'm not sure why the design is a pig design for Santa Lucia, but you can also do one that looks kind of like a cat, which is where you get the name of Lucy cat from, which is a little bit different. So you're actually going to end up using two for that one, two rolls, and then we'll shape it together. That's the fun thing about these is you can do them in so many different designs. And in Sweden and their bakeries there, they can get really crazy. They'll make like Lucia crown ones and everything. So this will do this is the Lucy cat. And once I get it kind of curled up. But you have it go like this, and apparently it's supposed to look like a cat. I never really saw it in the see the cat part, but that is how the Lucy cat is. And then we'll do the Yule ox, which is the Christmas ox. And you roll it out. And I will tell you, they're really not that bougie in designs. They're simple roll things. You just start with your dough and then go in here. And this one, you can see it. You've got kind of like the ox horns on it. So pretty fun. And now we'll do the Yule goat on there. But after I do a couple fun ones, I always go back to the really easy, just the basic S or the pig one. So the goat, you're going to kind of go up and then so it's kind of like, I got to transfer it now very carefully. But imagine that's the goat's head and those are the horns going out. So pretty cool, pretty cute. I'm actually going to turn these two both sideways so they bake up a little bit easier. And then we're going to roll out some more of the traditional ones. Now we will also be brushing these with an egg wash, and I'll put a raisin on some raisins on a few of them. I typically don't like the raisins on them, but my mom likes the raisins. And then I also have some pearled sugar, which is nice to have on there. Adds a little bit more sweetness to it. And then what I always do, because I always get very tired rolling these out, because I always make them super late the night before Santa Lucia, because you're supposed to wake up in the morning with the buns, and it's supposed to be the eldest daughter, which is the Lucia, the Santa Lucia, is supposed to bring like the treats and coffee and the buns to the elders. I was not the oldest girl in my family, so I never got to be Santa Lucia, but I let both my girls dress up for it because it's no fun if you don't get to be it. We'll do another Yule goat. Oh, and then there's also the heart. I can do the heart one as well, which is a fairly simple design. I think that's just, again, the fun thing. It's all about making fun little designs for it.
Maybe a question. What are you making?
So these are saffron buns or Lucy cats, which are a traditional kind of breakfast slash sweet bread that you have on Santa Lucia. And tomorrow is Santa Lucia. So they are made using saffron to give it its nice kind of yellow color. And that's supposed to signify like light. And whole all of Santa Lucia in Sweden, it's about kind of signaling that the cold, dark days of winter are almost over. It's essentially around the winter solstice, and that the sun is going to be there, starting to get longer and longer. The days will be longer, and the light will be there. So that's why I like Santa Lucia is the girl who wears the white dress with the red sash and the crown with the candles on it, hence signaling kind of the bringing of the light. Is these. And get our next one kind of cut up, and then we'll do a couple braids where I do the big loaf and I braid it because it's just a great way of not having to roll out a million of these. And these I always say, so I make these for, of course, like my mom and our family to eat. But then I have my best friend who is actually Uruguayan, but her mom and sister live in Sweden, not far from where my family, like extended family, lives. And so that was kind of like our big connection when we were working together is, oh, we both have family in Sweden. But she absolutely loves these rolls as well. So I always bring her some. So I'm just portioning it off into small little pieces so that I can roll them up. That way they'll bake nicely.
Yeah, question. What are you making for Christmas? Anything traditional?
So for Christmas, we do on Christmas Eve, we do kind of more of an American Christmas with we do like a prime rib roast and mashed potatoes with gravy. I do Brussels sprouts and bacon and caramelized carrots and onions, and then I'll make like homemade rolls or bread. For actual Christmas, we do a smorgasbord or a Yule board, which is like a Christmas feast, a Swedish Christmas feast, which has lots of courses where you have to eat only certain foods. You start out with like the cold cheese and meat course, followed by the cold fish course. And then after you've got through those courses, you can go to the like the warm meats course and the warm food course. And then you have like the dessert course. So it's one of those traditional things where it has lots of crazy stuff like pickled herring done 3 different ways, and I make my Swedish meatballs. We don't do a Swedish ham because those are very different from the American ham, but I do an American ham because my family really likes it. So we have that. So we have that ham part to it. A lot of times I do a goose as well or a duck as kind of like a Christmas one. And then we have all of our little, I'll make pepperkaka and little treats. Sometimes I make another batch of saffron buns around that time because these are my son's absolutely favorite thing ever. He always asks for these, but I only make them like once or twice a year. And he just, when he gets these, he just loves them so much. He asked me tonight, he goes, are they going to be done tonight? And I said, oh, not while you're still awake, because I never make them until like essentially midnight. Okay, get this guy. But if you kind of look closely at the dough, you'll actually see the threads of saffron in it, which are these kind of red little strips there. And the way you get this nice gold color is you actually soak the saffron in warm milk for about 10 minutes. And that kind of bleeds out that yellowish color, which gives these buns this nice golden pop. Okay, let's get these and get them all rolled out, and we can start getting the first batch in the oven baking. Yeah. They will puff up and get a little bit bigger, not super huge, but they do get bigger.
You have a question? Are you selling these?
No, these are just for our family and some friends to eat. They are just, we make them every year for Santa Lucia. And then I'll have my daughters, both of them, because I believe that it's not just the oldest daughter who gets to be Lucia, but everybody can. So my daughters will dress up as Santa Lucia tomorrow, so that we can take my picture, because you gotta, I mean, that's what they do. They dress up in the picture. Gotta have my picture. I think I'm gonna go through and find all of my pictures from the years before and make a little like video of it. But we always get a picture in front of our Christmas tree, has them dressed up. And if we're not too busy, then I make them like go to my mom's house and deliver them and some family friends. When they were little, or weren't too embarrassed to do it, but they would dress up as Santa Lucia and go to school dressed up as Santa Lucia, and they would pass out buns to their teachers. I don't, this year Santa Lucia fell on, on a Saturday. So, but I don't know if Evie would have done it. Lena stopped doing it out of preschool. She wasn't going to do it, but Evie did it all through elementary school when it landed on it. She was one of her favorite things to dress up and show her teachers and friends and bring them. She actually asked me if we could save a couple buns so that she could give some to her friends on Monday when she goes back to school. So I thought that was pretty cool. She said they all asked for them because they love them. And I will say they're a unique flavor because it's sweet and you have that saffron flavor to it. But I have to say they are delicious. We'll get these guys rolled out pretty quickly. Again, I always go back to that really simple design because it's easy. But we'll throw in a couple. Some, they've gotten pretty. I've seen some really crazy designs. I've seen a Santa Claus where they like make the like the beard and kind of curl around. They've done crowns, trees. I've seen a lot of crazy different ones. Get this, and then we'll brush these with an egg wash mixture. We'll put some raisins on a few of them, which are kind of common, and then slide this so I can sneak another row in, and then we will bake them up in the oven. Let's get this one. And then our big loaf over there, we're going to make into 2 loaves that we'll roll out and braid up, which again is just easier. Little saffron thread there. Now the dough is when you are making this dough from scratch, it's actually quite kind of tacky in the beginning, and you don't want to mix in too much flour because then you have a really dense like roll. With the saffron, I remember one of those years I was like, gosh, I really want to get more saffron flavor in it, not realizing that if you add too much saffron in it, your buns are going to turn rock hard. It kind of prevents the like the yeasting proofing process if you add too much in it. So I only used 1 gram of saffron in this because this is a double batch. So 1 gram is hardly any if you actually think about it. We'll throw that one in our last one. And we're going to brush these up with an egg wash mixture, and we'll get them baking up. And then we can roll out our loaf. So I'm just going to mix 1 egg with about a teaspoon of water. And this is going to give them that nice kind of shiny color to it. There we go. Making a little bit of noise here. So we'll brush these over and then we're going to roll out our things. But let's get a couple before we do that. I'm going to put a couple raisins in here. So traditionally, you'll see them a lot with a raisin tucked in kind of at each end here. Again, I typically prefer mine without, but I always make a couple with some in it because my mom does like the raisins. And, you know, she's the one technically from Sweden, so make them the way she likes. Here. I just randomly put them in throughout. Now you can also pre-soak them if you want to, which just allows them to puff up a little bit more. But I do like them just kind of plain and not soaked. Okay, we've got some with it. We're going to take our basting brush here. And we're just going to rub this egg wash over each one of our saffron buns. And if you miss any spot, you'll tell when you bake it up because it won't be shiny. Coat it all the way around. And then once these are baking in, we'll roll out our big loaf and have that bake up while we make our cringla, which is, so the first time I ever had cringla was, I want to say I was in like the 2nd grade at a friend's birthday party. And her mom had made cringla for everyone. And then I found out they were a Norwegian and northern Sweden. They have them there, but like a cookie type there. And I love them. They're actually kind of like a sour cream based cookie, and they are delicious. And there we'll make the dough, and then you actually roll them out into almost a similar shape to this, but they'll be actually a figure 8, and then you'll bake them up, but they need to chill overnight, the dough does. So we'll prep that for tomorrow. So I always like to make those on Santa Lucia as well because they look very similar, but they're a different type of cookie, and you dust them with a little bit of powdered sugar as well. Okay, I think let's dab this one a little bit more. And then I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of, this is just sugar pearls. So they're like little sugar balls. And I'm going to sprinkle it on a couple of them as well. I don't do them all because I like them without it as well. But we'll just have a whole mixture of them to spread throughout. Gotta have variety. And now these do not take very long to bake up in the oven. We're going to bake them for just about 12 minutes at 350 degrees. But they'll be just lovely and kind of a nice golden color to them. So let's slide those guys in. I'm going to set my timer 12 minutes. And you want to bake them until they've just are lightly kissed with a little bit of brown on them. You don't want to over bake them or they'll dry out. Okay, let's make our big braids now. Now the trick, and I always say this like similar to with challah bread, is when you're doing your braids, do them with 4 braids versus like 3. So like when I braid my hair, I just use 3 kind of strands, but with this, you want to use 4 to make that nice pretty look to it. So we're going to roll it all the way out, roll them nice and long, you know, about 2 feet or so. And that just makes it easier to work with because they will kind of contract up when you start braiding. got one. Oop, lost my microphone. There we go. Get this guy out. And this is what I always do because I always bake up a tray and then I'm like, oh, I'm too tired to shape up more. Let's make the braids because I can braid them up much faster than I can roll them all out. And they taste the same. Like my friend, she always gets a couple of the Lucy Cats, the smaller ones, but I always bring her a braid. And they're so delicious. And you can do this two ways. I'm going to just do long ones, but if you actually roll them out even longer, you can braid them around into a wreath or a Lucia crown on there, but that's a lot of work. So here we go. We'll see if my older daughter will bring any to her friends. She has a soccer game tomorrow. We'll see if she brings any. You know, that awkward age where they're like embarrassed about stuff. So we'll see. But she still at least humors me and dresses up so I can get my picture. Okay. So now we're going to do our braid. And I always end up kind of braiding the ends of it, but to start, and there's always like a trick to it, and I always mess up the trick, I will tell you that. So we're going to start going under. There we go. And I always find you just have to kind of look at it as it's braiding to figure it out. And then you'll see. And there's always times where I make a mistake in it. And just keep pulling because again, I will rebraid that end at the very end to seal it together. And then you kind of pinch it down and tuck it underneath. And then I always rebraid this part because it's easier to start loose and then kind of tuck it back under. So here is our pretty long braid, which looks much nicer than a 3-prong one. And then when you lay it on your parchment paper, stretch it out and then just give it a little pull throughout to loosen it up just a little bit. That just is going to help it bake up. And then we'll have it on there. So easy peasy lemon squeezy. And now we'll do the same with this one. Now you can get more intricate and do more strands. You can do 8, 9, 6, but it gets complicated. I did a 9 one, it's more like a basket weave. And I messed up so many times that I didn't have like the perfect little on there. I was like, it's too hard. We'll stick with it. There. But again, roll it out nice and long. And that way you'll have a good amount to work with. And we've got it. And then when I do my braids up, I'm going to put raisins on one of them. And you can also, instead of raisins, you can also do currants, which are a little bit smaller than raisins, but those work as well. And just about. Okay, so now we've got our nice long strings. And we're going to braid these guys up again. Again, I just start loosely at one end because it is much easier to try to braid it and rebraid over there once you kind of get to it.
You have a question. Could you use small chocolate chips instead of raisins?
the chocolate chips might melt and it doesn't really go well with the flavors. So I wouldn't do that. I've already messed up here, guys. There we go. Got it back in there. So yeah, it's one of those things where it's really you want to use kind of a dried fruit versus like a sweetness to it because these are not. It's not a super sweet bun. It has a nice sweetness to it. Now, I do add a little bit more sugar than like the classic recipe uses because again, I like mine a little bit more sweet to it. Um, but, and I will say that's what my friend likes. She's like, your Lucy cats are always the best because they're sweet. And I was like, I like them that way. But they're not, again, they're not like a super dessert type bread. They are delicious, warmed up with some butter. Here. And so if you don't like dried fruits, I just leave them again, just plain. Seal those guys up on each end. And then we'll do our ones with raisins. And you can always soak your raisins if you want to. That's just make them more juicy. Now for the raisins on the braids, you kind of tuck them in every little like crisscrossy part. And then as it will rise up and bake into them. And then we'll brush these with our egg wash. Okay. And then just make sure you do give them a good little tuck in. You don't want them just completely rising on the top, or when it kind of bakes up, you'll pop them right off. Get there. And we'll find another one hiding in there somewhere. Here we go. Okay. Now let's brush these guys up. And that's what I said. One egg goes a long way for the egg wash, so you don't need to do any more than one. I rarely even use it all the way up. But make sure you get in every little like nook and cranny because if you miss it, you will definitely tell because it will not be shiny or brown wherever you hit it with the egg wash.
Would dates work on these?
If you were to, you would have to chop them up into smaller pieces because dates are pretty big. But yes, you could definitely use dates. They're a bit sweeter than a raisin, but could definitely work. Craisins or dried cranberries would also work well, especially since they're a little bit more things. Or cherries, dried cherries. Actually, I think dried cherries would be super delicious with this. And apparently I didn't push that one in well enough. There we go. And then we'll get these. Now the braids do take slightly longer to bake up than the little rolls on there. So when you're thinking about, I do the rolls for about 12 minutes and then these take about 3 minutes longer because they're just a little bit thicker. Okay. Let's go pop this in the oven. Just get these sides one more time. There we go. And then we'll be able to whip up our batter for the cringla tomorrow. And that should be enough time for at least get the first batch out. We'll actually get to take a quick peek at them right now since they're going in. You can see just how much they've already popped up. They look fantastic. I'm actually going to give them another minute or two on there because I think they need, I'm just going to add, we'll do 2 minutes because I don't see the kiss of brown yet. And there was about a minute left on it. Okay, let's whip up our cringla, which are a sour cream-based cookie that looks very similar to a Lucy Cat or a Saffron bun. They have like a figure 8 shape, but are delicious. So we are going to start with 1.5 cups of sour cream. So I'm going to grab, I'm pretty sure I have, yes, I do. I have a random measuring cup that holds a cup and a half. It was one of my mom. She gave me all of these random measuring cups, like 1 2/3 cup and 1 3/4 cup. So have it all. But I will say, you don't add butter to this recipe. It is sour cream and egg yolks. So we need a cup and a half, which I thought was going to actually be perfectly about this entire container. And I was correct. There we go. So a cup and a half of sour cream. And then we're going to use 3 egg yolks. So not the whites, just the yolks. So we'll separate them here. I'm going to pull off. And we've got 1, 2, 3. I'm going to wash my hands real quick. Okay, so we've got 1 1/2 cups of sour cream and then our 3 egg yolks. And we're going to cream these guys together on there. So you'll want to mix that all the way in.
Do you have a question? For the saffron buns, is saffron a major flavor or is it mostly for color?
It has very subtle hints throughout. It's not like boom saffron risotto in your face, but you definitely taste the saffron, but it's not an overpower, but it's a subtle flavor all the way throughout. So if you don't like saffron, you're not going to love these, I will tell you that. But it's very saffron in a savory dish versus saffron in a sweet, I think hit a little differently. And so you have the sugar in that dish that really kind of bring those flavors together, which I think just really enhances it. But again, I will say, like, some people love them and some people don't. I feel like if you don't like the saffron, then you will not like them. Okay, we're going to add in a cup of sugar. And then we're going to mix that in. And our saffron buns will be ready in just a second here. Okay. Perfect. Okay, we're going to go grab our saffron buns out of the oven. This will be our first bun. Now, our loaves will still remain in there, and I'm going to give them about 10 minutes on there. That looks beautiful.
Do you have questions? Do you also make the Swedish cardamom buns?
I do. You know what? I think I want them to be kissed a little bit more. So I'm going to pop these. Yes, it's so funny. My mom purposefully gave me another recipe for the cardamom buns for me to make them. So I'm going to put 2 minutes and then we should be golden. I want them to be kiss brown a little bit more. Yes, I was actually thinking about making cardamom buns tomorrow, but I think I'm going to make those for our smorgasbord on there. I love cardamom flavor, and 2 of my kids love it. The rest, they do not like it at all. So it's one of those things where I love cardamom cookies, cardamom bread, all of that stuff. It's so good, and I think it's because I grew up eating it. But my husband and 2 of my kids do not like it at all. We're going to add in 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So we've got our cup of sugar, 1/2 teaspoon of salt in there. And then we're going to add in baking powder and baking soda. We're going to do a teaspoon of each. So 1 teaspoon of baking powder. and then 1 teaspoon of baking soda. And then we're going to do our vanilla, and we're going to do 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. We'll mix that all in, and then all we have left is our flour. We'll mix our flour into the dough, and then we'll chill it until we're ready to roll it out and bake it. And I always say you need to just chill it about 8 to 12 hours, but I just find that doing it overnight works. But you need to make sure it gets nice and cold, and that there's been plenty of time for the flour to kind of hydrate into the sour cream and base. Okay. And then now we're going to add in 3 cups of all-purpose flour. Before we do that, we'll grab our buns out of the oven and we'll move our things up. They should be nice and kissed at the top now. Much better. We've got this nice light kissing of them. And again, you don't want to over bake them. I'm going to move my rolls up here. And then I'm going to set my timer so I don't forget about them. But we're going to bring our saffron buns all the way over here, also called Lucy cats. Okay. So we have our delicious saffron buns, and look at how we've got this nice kind of golden brown on there, and they're still spongy and soft, and they will be delicious. Again, we made lots of different designs. So we have the heart, and then we have the Yule ox, and then the Yule goat, and the Yule gull, which is the pig. And then this is their traditional Lucy cat design, where it looks like a cat, but this is the one that everyone makes because it's a lot easier. Okay, let's finish up our cringla, and then we'll have to say goodbye for the night because we are just about done with everything. So we're going to put 3 cups of our all-purpose flour in. And then we're going to mix this up into our dough. And again, the key for these to turn out and really keep their shape and be delicious is you just have to let that dough chill in the refrigerator overnight, or minimum of 8 hours. So if you made it in the morning, you could bake it up in the evening. It's just if you try to roll it out now, it just doesn't have, you don't have the time for that flour to really hydrate into the liquid base.
Question, what's the name of the cookies?
These are called cringla. So they're like a Norwegian, also northern Sweden. They're common there. They're not very common in the southern parts of Sweden. At least my mom said so growing up, that they didn't really ever eat those there. But I have friends from the more northern parts, and they were like, oh yeah, we had them, and they're very common in Norway. Okay. So we've got it just about. And so as you can see, it is more of a sticky dough, but as it hydrates and it chills into the refrigerator, it's going to thicken up. But when you go to roll it out, you are going to need to dust your countertops and then use flour for the rolling process. Okay. And now, since it is technically Santa Lucia, I get to enjoy the first bun, but I want to break it apart and I want to show you just how soft and delicious these are. You can see the saffron, but do you see how soft they are? They are so good. Perfect. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here tonight. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I try to do live cooking shows every single day, kind of show you what we're making for our family and hopefully teach you guys something along the way. Again, we do upload all of our videos to the link on our page. So if you ever want to recreate any of our recipes at home, you can just go to that page, search for what we made, and you can always watch and cook along with me again. We also have a link to our Amazon storefront that has all of our different cooking gear and bakeware in there. So I've got my baking sheets, knives, cutting boards, mixers, all the different things I use in the kitchen I have in there for you guys to check out. But again, thank you so much for joining us here today. Don't forget to like